Hello everyone, how are you? I'm your English teacher and I hope that everything is good with you and your family. Now today we are going to discuss chapter number 4 from your book Moments. Today I will discuss the detailed summary of this chapter. Now move on to the text. In the kingdom of fools, it is believed that fools are so dangerous that only very wise people can manage them. Who are the fools in the story? What happened to them? In the kingdom of fools, both the king and the minister were idiots. Now, in the beginning of the chapter, we come to know that in the kingdom of fools, the minister and the king both are unintelligent persons. They both are foolish. They did not want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change night into day and day into night. So what they did not want to run the things like the other kings are doing. So they decided to do something different, something unusual, and they started treating night as a day and day as a night. They ordered that everyone should be wake up at night till their fields and run their businesses only after dark and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. So what they did next, they passed an order that everyone in the kingdom would work at night. Nobody would sleep at night, and even the farmers would do farming at night, and the businessmen do their business at night. So as soon as the sun rose, everyone should go to sleep, and if someone disobeyed their order, he would be punished with death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. So now the king and his minister, they both are very happy because they see that their people in the kingdom are obeying their order. So now what happened, one day a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. It was a beautiful city. It was broad daylight, but there was no one about. Everyone was asleep, not a mouse stirring. Even the cattle had been taught to sleep by day. Now what happened, one day the guru and the disciple moved to the city, and they were very surprised to see that everyone is asleep, and writer says that not even a single mouse is moving in the city during daytime, and they could not find a single cattle is also waken up. So they are very surprised to see that people had taught their cattle to sleep during daytime. So everyone, human beings as well as animals, were sleeping. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around town till evening, when suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly business. Now what happened? The guru and the disciple were very surprised to see that as the moment the day has passed in the city, so everyone wake up and started doing their work, and everyone doing their work, even the businessmen were doing their work, even the farmers were doing their work. The two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, they found that everything cost the same single duru. Now the guru and the disciple, were very hungry. When the shops opened at night, they went to buy groceries. They were surprised to see whatever they bought from the shop costed one duru. So duru is a Kannada language में उनके coin को कहा जाता है. Whether they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a duru. The guru and the disciple were delighted. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. The guru and the disciple were very happy because the food in this kingdom was very cheap. You could buy a lot of food with just rupee 1. So when they had cooked and eaten, the guru realized that this was a kingdom of fools. It won't be a good idea for them to stay there. When the guru and his disciple cooked and eat their food, the guru realized that the kingdom was a kingdom of fools and decided not to stay there any longer because it was an unsafe place for them. This is no place for us. Let us go. he said to disciple. The wise Guru told his disciple that this was not right place for them to live. So we must leave this place immediately. But the disciple did not want to leave the place. Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good cheap food. So now the disciple, he was a foodie person. He loved to eat, and that is why he did not want to leave this place, because the food was very cheap there. The Guru said, they are all fools. This won't last very long, and you can't tell what they will do you next. Now the Guru advised his disciple to understand that everything there is not a good. They all are fool, and it is very dangerous for them to live there. The kingdom would not last for a long time, and they could harm them any time. But the disciple won't listen to the Guru's wisdom. He wanted to stay. The disciple is not a good wise person like his Guru. He won't understand what his Guru is trying to say. He wanted to live there only and enjoy the cheap food. The Guru finally gave up and said, do what you want, I'm going, and left. So finally the Guru left alone, leaving the disciple behind. The disciple stayed on at his fill every day, banana and ghee and rice and wheat, and grew fat like a straight-side scared bull. The disciple stayed back in the kingdom of food, so every day he ate a lot of food, due to which he became as fat as a huge bull. One bright day, a thief broke into a merchant house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in, and he was carrying out his loot. The wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. Now what happened? One day a thief entered a merchant house, and he made a hole in the wall to gain some access. So what happened, when he was about to move out of the house after looting all the things, the wall broke and fell on the head, and he died there only. His brother ran to the king and accompanied, Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to blame. He should have built a good strong wall. You must punish the wrongdoer and compensate the family for this injustice. So now what happened? The thief's younger brother went to the king and complained that his brother was following his ancient trade. So what was their ancient trade? Robbing the house, doing a crime. While he was working, the wall fell on his head and he died. The thief's brother was taking advantage of the king's foolishness here. He said the merchant whose wall has fallen down on his brother was the culprit. He should have made a strong wall. He requested the king to punish the merchant and get compensation for his family. The king said, Justice will be done, don't worry, and at once summoned the owner of the house. The king was a so foolish person that he did not consider the fact that the dead man was committing the theft at the time of his death. He only thought that the man died because the wall fell on him, and the owner of the house whose wall fall on him had to be punished. So he called the merchant. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, What's your name? Such and such, Your Highness. Were you at home when the dead man burgled your house? Yes, my lord. He broke in and the wall was weak. It fell on him. The accused plead guilty. Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you. As soon as the merchant appeared, the king asked his name. Then the king asked him whether he was at home when the thief was burgling his house. The merchant replied that he was at home only. The thief made a hole in the wall and entered his house. And when he was trying to go out, the wall fell down on him because it was a weak wall. Then the king told the merchant that he was guilty, he did wrong. Due to this weak wall, the thief died, and now he would be punished. Lord, said the helpless merchant, I did not put up the wall. It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He did not build it right. You should punish him. Now the merchant pleaded in front of the king. He requested that, my lord, it was not my fault. The wall was weak because the person who made the wall did not construct it properly. Hence we should punish him. And further he added that the wall was made during his father's time. The person who built it was very old and he knew him as he was alive. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and foot. So the king sent his soldiers to call the bricklayer who built the wall. They tied his hands and feet and brought him in the king's palace. You there, did you build this man's wall in his father's time? Yes, my lord, I did. Then king asked him, did you build the wall? And he replied, yes, he did. The king sent out, what kind of a wall is this that you built? It has fallen on a poor man and killed him. You have murdered him. You have to punish you by death. Now the king asked him that what kind of wall you built. It was a weak wall, and the wall fell on the poor thief's head and killed him. The bricklayer would be punished for this with death. Before the king could order the execution, the poor bricklayer pleaded, please listen to me before you give your orders. It is true I built this wall and it was no good, but that was because my mind was not on it. I remembered very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling, and I could not keep my eyes on my mind and on the wall I was building. You just get that dancing girl, I know where she lives. Now everyone is passing blame to another person. When the king was about to pass an order to execute the bricklayer, he requested the king to listen to him. He agreed that he did not make the wall properly, and it was because of that dancing girl who was moving around in the street and her anklets were making a jingling sound. Due to her anklets jingling sound, he was not able to concentrate on his work and build a weak wall. It was not his mistake, it was the fault of the girl. He added that he knew where this dancing girl lived. He should be punished instead of him. You are right, the case deepens. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. Let's get that dancer, whoever she is. The king was satisfied with the bricklayer explanation, and he was convinced with him. He tells that this case is very complicated and will not be able to solve it so easily. He ordered his messenger to get the dancer girl. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling to the court. Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? Now they bring the dancing girl to the lord and to the king, and she was old now and she was trembling as she entered the court. The king asked her that many years ago, was she dancing and roaming in the lane while the bricklayer was constructing the wall? Yes, my lord, I remember it very well. So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and you distracted him. So he built a bad wall. Now it has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man. You will have to be punished. Now as the moment they put a blame on the woman, she confirmed that she did the thing. He told her that as she was roaming around with her anklets jingling, distracted the bricklayer, so due to which he just built a weak wall and it fell on the poor man, and it was cause of her and that the thief died, and she would be punished with that. She thought for a minute and said, "My lord, wait, I know now why I was walking up and down that street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was a lazy scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now and he would give it then, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down to his house dozen a time. That was when this bricklayer saw me. It's not my fault, my lord. It is the damned goldsmith's fault." Now the dancing girl transferred the blame on another person. She said that she was roaming around in the lane again and again because she had to visit the goldsmith's shop. She had given some gold to him to make jewelry out of it. He was a dishonest person. He was making excuses for not making her ornaments in time. He kept on asking her to come after some time. Due to this, she had to go to his house a dozen a time. So the dancing girl said it was the fault of the goldsmith. That was when this bricklayer poor thing. She absolutely right, thought the king. Weighing the evidences, we got the real culprit at last. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once. So now the king says that the poor dancing girl was totally right. He thought a lot and finally said that now they knew who the real culprit was. He ordered to bring the goldsmith. "My lord," he said. The king's baffled searched for the goldsmith, who was hiding in a corner of his shop. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. Now they bring that goldsmith to king's court and brought him there, and the goldsmith was hiding inside his shop as he feared being arrested. When he was brought in front of king, he told to the king his own story. So what was the story? He said, "My lord, I'm a poor goldsmith. It's true. I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I could not finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's order. They had a wedding coming and they won't wait. You know now how impatient rich men are." Now goldsmith said that the dancing girl was right. He made many excuses and made her visit his shop again and again, but it was not his fault. Goldsmith is saying he had an order from a rich merchant and they had a wedding at their place and were in a hurry to get their order, and that is why the dancing girl works was getting delayed. "Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry, made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him? Can you name him?" Now they asked the goldsmith about to tell me the name of that merchant, to tell the name of that rich person who makes you to delay the work of that poor girl. The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. Now justice had come full circle, thought the king back to the merchant when he was rudely summoned back to the court. He arrived crying, "It wasn't me, but my father who ordered the jewelry. He is dead. I'm innocent." Now what they said, the goldsmith said the merchant was the same merchant whose house wall has fallen down. Justice has come full circle means that the story ended at the same person from it has been started. The thief died under the wall of the same merchant whose jewelry this goldsmith was making. So once again the merchant was called. He was crying and he knew that the king was foolish. So and he would give him death sentence. He said that it was not he who had given the jewelry order, but it was his father. His father was dead and it was none of his fault now. He is innocent person. But the king consulted his minister and ruled decisively. It's true, your father is the true murderer. He is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You have inherited everything from the criminal father of yours, his riches as well his sins. I knew at once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die. But now the king consulted with his minister and he took the decision that who's going to be punished. So they said that the merchant father was murdered. The thief died because of him, as the merchant father was not alive and someone has to be punished for the crime. So he said to the merchant son that who inherited everything from his father would have to take the punishment for his wrong work also. He added that when he had seen the merchant for the first time, at that moment he had a feeling that he was the culprit. The king announced that now the merchant would have to die. And he ordered a new stake to be made ready for the execution. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to properly execute it on the stake. He appealed to the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. Now what happened? So now they decided to make that stake to give a punishment to the merchant. And when this new weapon was ready, the minister felt that the merchant was very thin and could not be executed in this way. He can't fit in this stake. So he told the king, and king got worried. So king is very worried, if that person is not being fit to this stake, to whom we are going to punish? What shall we do? He said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. So the king got an idea. They should catch hold of a man who was fat enough to execute it with the stake. The merchant would not be put to death because he was too thin to be executed. So they thought of punishing another person instead of the merchant, one who was fat enough to be executed with stake. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who could fit the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. So finally the king sent his servant around the kingdom to look for a man who was fat enough to be executed with the stake. They found the Guru's disciple who has become fat enough by eating so much food. What have I done wrong? I'm innocent, I'm a sannyasi, he cried. That may be true, but it's the royal decree that we should find a man fat enough to fit the stake. They said and carried him to the place of execution. The disciple said that he was a sannyasi and he had not done anything wrong. He was innocent. Then why they were taking him? The king's servant said that it was the order of the king to bring a fat person whom they can fit in the stake, and that's why they were taking him along. He remembered his wise Guru's word. This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. So now the disciple is reminded of his Guru. Guruji, who was a wise man, had told him that it is a city of fools and they could harm you. And now they were taking him along to execute him. You don't know what they will do next. While he was waiting for that, he prayed to his Guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. The Guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. He could see far and could see the future as he could see the present and the past. So now the helpful disciple prayed to his Guru and asked him to come and to rescue him. The Guru could visualize the disciple's message. Due to his magical power, he could see everything. He could see the future, the present, the past, and he could see everything by his vision. He arrived at once to save his disciple, who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food. Now the Guru arrived there to save his disciple. The disciple was trapped in a difficult and a serious situation. They were about to execute him, although he had not done anything wrong. So the Guru came to rescue him from this situation. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. So the Guru met his disciple. He scolded him because he did not obey his order and stayed back. Now he whispered something in his ear. Then he went to the king and addressed him, "O wisest of kings, who is greater, the Guru or the disciple?" So now he went to the king. Of course, the Guru, no doubt about it. "Why do you ask? Then put me to the stake first, put my disciple to death after me." The Guru tried to trap the king in his word here now. He asked him who was greater between a Guru and his disciple. The king replied that, "Oh, of course, the Guru was greater." The Guru said, "For this reason, the king must execute him before executing his disciple." When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor, "Me first. You brought me here first. Put me to death first, not him." So when disciple heard his Guru's word, he started shouting that he wanted to die first, put him to death first rather than his Guru. The Guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the Guru, "Why do you want to die?" "We choose him because we needed a fat man for the stake." When the Guru and the disciple started arguing that who would die first, the king got confused. He asked the Guru that why did you want to die? They had caught the disciple because he was a fat and they wanted a fat man who could be executed with the stake. "You shouldn't ask me such questions. Put me to death first," replied the Guru. The Guru replied, he said that he wanted to die because he wants to die first rather than his disciple. "Why, there's some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand." So the Guru refused to reply. The king felt that there was something mysterious behind it. The Guru wanted to die before his disciple and was so eager to die. There must be some reason behind it. "Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you?" asked the Guru. Now the Guru asked the king to promise him that he would execute him first if he is going to tell him about the secret about why he wanted to execution first. The king gave him the solemn words. The Guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, "Do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us, we have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or king like you. That stake is the stake of God of justice. It has never had a criminal on it." Now the king promised that he would execute him first. Then the Guru took the king aside and slowly told him that they had roamed around the whole world but had not seen a city and a king like him. He added that the stake which they would use to kill the disciple was the stake of justice, as it was new and it had not killed any criminal. Whoever died on it first will be reborn as the king of the country. Now they said that further he said that to the king, who would die first on this stake would be reborn as the king of the kingdom. So by telling this, he is just trying to trap the king in his words. And whoever goes next will be the future minister of the country. Now he tells that again, whoever is dying to be next be born as the minister of the kingdom of this country. We were sick of our aesthetic life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as a king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember. The Guru added that he was tired of his life of sannyasi. He and his disciple wanted to live the life of a king and a minister. So he says that the king execute him first, so that he is reborn as a king, and after him his disciple be executed, so he is reborn as a minister. Now the king was now thrown into deep thoughts. He did not want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time, so he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in the secret with his ministers. So what happened now? After listening to the Guru, the king was in deep thoughts. He did not want that in the next life his kingdom be snatched away from him. He discussed this with his minister. So he secretly discussed that with his minister. It's not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. So let's go on the stake ourselves, and we will be reborn as king and the minister again. So minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. The king told his minister that he did not want that in the next life his kingdom to be taken away. He added that the person was a holy man, and holy men did not speak lies. He says that they should die first, so that they are reborn as a king and minister of kingdom. So he told the executioner, we will send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. Now the king told his executioner that he would send the criminals at night. Firstly, they should execute the person who came first, and then execute the second person. They should be careful not make any mistake. That night, the king and his ministers went secretly to the prison, released the Guru and the disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged beforehand, with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. So at night, the king and his minister went to the prison where the Guru and the disciple were kept. They wore the clothes of the Guru and the disciple and his so that they look like them. As it was told to the servant, they came and took them along and put them into the stake for execution. In this way, with this intelligence, the Guru was able to execute his foolish king and his foolish minister. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to the crows and vultures, the people panicked. So what happened when the dead bodies of the king and the ministers were taken away to be thrown to the people? Trembled to see the dead bodies of their king and their minister. So what they saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. The city was in confusion. So everyone was trembling because the dead bodies were not of the Gurus and the disciple. They were the bodies of their king and their minister. So all night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of Guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. So what happened next? So they decided everyone in the kingdom was mourning the death of the king and his minister. In the morning, some people thought of Guru and his disciple and felt that they should go to them, and the Guru and his disciple were planning to leave the kingdom. The people stopped them. What they said? We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. The people of the kingdom thought that they need a king and a minister, and so they requested the Guru and disciple to be the new king and the minister of the kingdom. I did not take any arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the guru. The disciple agreed quickly at this but it took some time to make the guru agree upon this decision, to this suggestion. So now what happened? They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister, on the condition that they could change all the old laws. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for Odudu. It became like any other place. So the guru agreed to the king, to the kingdom, but on the condition that from then everyone would work in the day and sleep at night. Also, the cost of things would vary and not be of one Dudu for everything, as it was the system earlier. It would be like any other place where everything had different rates. Finally, the guru converted the kingdom of fools into a normal kingdom. So I hope you understood this story, and in today's online class your teacher will discuss the question answers of this chapter. Till the time, stay safe, stay at home. Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm your English teacher and I hope that everything is good with you and your family. Now today we are going to discuss chapter number 4 from your book Moment, and today I will discuss the detailed summary of this chapter. Now move on to the chapter.